Subsequent statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. Keep fans. Time for the best insight of your favorite team with insider Ira Winderman, exclusively on the Big O Radio Show. It's the Acura of Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat and NBA report. Here's Ira Winderman.
All right. How you doing, Ira? You hanging in there, ready for another Heat season?
Number 36, heading out there, 36 or 37. Even I'm starting to lose track a little bit. But, yeah, it's finally going down for real. Started all in 88. And when the expectations were low, and now, Big O, I mean, you've read the stories. You've seen what's been talked about the last few days. Once you establish an expectation of excellence and victory, it really is interesting how anything short of that seems like failure. And it sort of seems like that's where the Heat are right now with these outside expectations.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the bar you set when you had your first press conference that you and I were there at a ship. And, you know, I dream about a parade down, you know, Biscayne Boulevard. So the second Riley got here, he set the standard that he wanted. They've met that standard over and over and over again. And so now it's the norm for us here. You know, that's kind of the way it is. And, you know, to watch these stories, the Bradley Beal stuff and the stuff that did not go down for whatever reasons in Portland or with Beal or with anything else, you know, it's the good thing is that they've created a place that is desirable for lots of players out there. They want to come here because they see that vision is actually constantly reality. Correct. And that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, yes, you could say the Heat lost out on players because they wanted to be here. Not a lot of teams can. You can also say it's not like the Heat got stupid. It's not like, oh, they've totally lost their mojo and their karma and they don't know what they're doing anymore. These are the same people. It's not like there's been different general managers like the Marlins or the Panthers or other teams. These are people who have had an approach that has gotten this team to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 of the last 4 years, 2 of the last 4 NBA Finals. Yes, like Pat Riley said, the ultimate goal is a championship. But Pat Riley's no longer the winning or misery person. He understands you can have a pretty damn good time between those two poles when things are going right and you are making deep playoff runs. So, yes, the championship remains the goal. I believe they will be willing to spend. They will be willing to trade. They will be willing to do whatever is necessary. But they're going to do it on their terms, in their system, for what has worked for them for 3+ decades.
Yeah, and listen, they are the standard in this town, period. You know, it used to be the Dolphins was the standard in this town when they were kind of on their own. But since we've had all the teams in town, you know, the Heat have become the standard. Everybody else is chasing, you know, the Miami Heat. And maybe that's why it's kind of a twisted way to look at this season, because maybe a lot of average Heat fans out there are going, well, you know, we're going to be good, but we're not going to be a championship team. But then on the flip side, it's like, well, you never know with these people because you know, you had no idea what they had done now in the last 4 years, that we were going to watch this run for 4 years of 3 Eastern Conference and 2 NBA Finals. So the mystery, you know, is still there because Eric Spoelstra is so damn good. You know what I mean? So it's actually, again, they're always going to grab your attention because you just cannot predict what they can do or can't do.
And the question is whether you just therefore blow off the entire regular season, because it all starts in the playoffs anyway. And they have shown that during their deep playoff runs. They don't have to be the best. But on the other hand, I think this season, because of losing players like Strus and Vincent and not doing a lot in the offseason, I think you will look for the internal growth from Tyler Herro, from Bam Adebayo, to see if the other pieces fit. Because you know what, Big O? What they did last season was the exception. I know what happened in hockey with the Panthers. I know what's happening in baseball with the Diamondbacks. You do see teams come out of nowhere. But coming out of nowhere is still the harder way to come out of. I remember those playoff series last season. every series starting on the road. That's a tough road to hoe. And yes, you can do it, every now and then, but there's also an easier path that's less wear on your players if you want to endure. Eric Spoelstra says they're playing every game to win. I don't think Jimmy Butler is necessarily playing every game, let alone every game to win. So I think it will be interesting to see their approach going into the season.
So we've kind of talked about this, that you've been talking about like another extension possibly for Jimmy, right? Is that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, next summer is going to be interesting. Jimmy has an extension window that opens at $60 million a season next summer, where he can extend from his age 37 contract. Bam Adebayo on Monday allowed the deadline for an extension to pass this offseason. The difference is everyone's going, well, Giannis did his extension, why not Bam? Giannis qualified for a super max contract, so he's getting the maximum. Bam has yet to meet those thresholds. He's yet to be Defensive Player of the Year. He's yet to be All-NBA. If he is, he can get a $245 million 4-year extension next summer. So there's so much money in play that when you and I will talk in our Acura Pembroke Pines report about the Arisons and what they'll spend and what they don't spend, they could be on the hook for an F ton of money next summer. Plus, Caleb Martin is a free agent. Plus, I know it sounds small now, but could be bigger. Haywood Highsmith is a free agent. You have to manage your money. So when you looked at the Bradley Beal deal, forget for a second about the no trade clause. $50 million a year for Bradley Beal, or $30 million a year for Tyler Herro. That's part of the thinking also. Orlando Alzugaray, is Bradley Beal $50 million? Is Bradley Beal $20 million a season better than Tyler Herro? We all want the new name. We all want the fresh face and something different. But you know what? The guys over there at 601 Biscayne have to weigh that all in a salary cap league.
No, that was one move I completely agreed with. I've watched Bradley Beal. He's a nice player. He's not a dog. I'm sorry. He's not a dog. And you need a son of a bitch. And Damian Lillard is a son of a bitch. That's the kind of, I want a cold, calculated mofo in these kind of moments. And Damian Lillard was that guy. I know that the window's really small because he's old, but I'd rather take the chance with the guy that I know is the real deal, where the guy that is, untested. And I don't see even you taking your shitty team into the playoffs enough. And to me, that's a sign of, like, Mitch Richmond. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mitch Richmond was, Mitch Richmond. Mitch Richmond was a hell of a player. And at least Sacramento would make the playoffs every once in a while because Mitch Richmond would carry their asses at least. So you knew that there was dog in him. He just needed to go somewhere else. Just like Bosch got Toronto into the playoffs a couple times. Again, he couldn't carry the whole damn franchise. You had to put him somewhere else, and you brought him here to Miami, and he had the biggest rebound, the biggest assist, and the biggest block in Heat history. So to me, I need to see, even in an environment that's not favorable for you, I need to see you rise above that for moments, like Lillard has done even in Portland. And I just never seen that from Bradley Beal in Washington. And so for me, I'm with the Heat on the Bradley Beal one. If I have to pay $20 more million a year for Bradley Beal, I'll take my chances with Tyler. But we go where most shows don't go with you on this. The Butler one, I think it may are we headed for like a rocky ending because there's no way you extend him, is the way I kind of look at it. If you're the Heat and you want to turn the page, I think what happened now this offseason becomes a watershed moment also in the Jimmy Butler era, where we had to get your star. We didn't get your star. We need to kind of either crap or get off the pot. I think it's time to get off the pot in a couple of years, because you need to open up that space. And that way, if you do have to pay Bam a super max and you're paying Tyler, you need to gain some flexibility somewhere to get that star to complement your other guys. And Jimmy will be too old 3 years from now. So aren't you just better off riding out the last couple of years? I'm sure he'll exercise his player option in his final year and just deal with the consequences instead of extending something that really makes no sense?
I would say yes and no for this reason. If Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro show that they could be the core components of the next iteration of this team, then you move on. I can see that. Pat Riley mentioned that. He said, you know what? Through all that didn't happen, I posted a story at sunsentinel.com this morning. Through all that didn't happen, we still have this nice young core moving forward. So, and you mentioned players who were dogs and aren't dogs. Let's not forget about the 2020 run in the bubble to the NBA Finals. Tyler Herro showed more of being a dog in those playoffs than Bradley Beal ever has in any postseason he's been in. Tyler Herro has that dog in him offensively as a one-trick pony. But you know what? Damian Lillard's sort of a one-trick pony also. I know he can give you assists, but he's sort of that also. If you are a great one-trick pony, if you are a 25 points a game one-trick pony, that trick could be pretty damn good enough. I think Tyler Herro... Yeah, I think Tyler Herro is going to move up this year in his scoring. He's going to give you more offense. He's poised for that. And as a matter of fact, I think it's going to be very interesting in our Acura Pembroke Pines reports. I think you and I are going to have discussions coming down the road. Who's the better Heat player, Tyler Herro or Bam Adebayo? I think Tyler Herro could, not guaranteeing it, but I think he could possibly make that kind of jump.
Well, we can have that conversation if I'm talking about Tyler Herro at the end of the year, still in the lineup, because availability is one skill set that he doesn't have.
Yes.
And then as for his performance in the bubble, he was a neophyte at that time. He was, nothing at that time. So he broke out when nobody expected. Now we've put expectations on him, and he's kind of failed to meet those expectations. So it's a little different when you got to perform when nobody expects it. Mm-hmm. And then it's a hell of a lot different when, hey, bro, we've paid you. You need to start performing. You need to start coming through. And then that becomes a whole different monster. So he really has not answered that bell yet on a consistent basis. Wow. And I think a lot of it has to do with availability too.
You know what? I'm going to put it in a little different form here. Even Pat Riley mentioned Tyler Herro needs to score. But as you know, Big O, there are empty points. For example, people are talking this season that Jordan Poole might lead the NBA in scoring. Well, big whoop-de-damn diddly-do because the Wizards are going to the lottery. So can Tyler Herro not only score 25 a game, can he do it efficiently and in a manner that contributes to victory? That's important also. You and I always talk about on our Acura Pembroke Pines reports how you can be a good player on a bad team. But if Michael Beasley went to a bad team from the start instead of the playoff-bound Heat, he probably could have had a career where he was in the upper 20s and it would have been empty calories. So I not only need to see Tyler Herro score, I need to see him score efficiently, and I need to see that consistently contributing to winning. Because as you know, you've been sort of up and down on Bam Adebayo overall and where he is in the star spectrum. But everything that Bam Adebayo does contributes to victory.
Always.
His defense, his ball movement, his working with other players, his making teammates better. That's the next step for Tyler. That's a hard step. But I think he's capable. That's what we have to see.
We need another super role player?
Well, no, he's not going to be a super role player. He's going to be a super offensive player. The question is his top side? You and I always mention these names to you. Lou Williams and Jordan Crawford, and Crawford. Is he going to be a player like that where he's just going to be a scorer, six-man type of player, Jamal Crawford, or is he going to be something more? This is his test season. He has been pushed and prodded and traded and rumorized and everything, and he has talked about being steeled for the moment. Now we have to see if he can be a winning player while also taking the next step while being a winning player.
But by the way, if you're Tyler Herro, personally, of course, you need to show everybody and you need to show the Heat and all that, but more you need to show yourself because in the end, dude, you weren't even sexy enough to trade. So believe it or not,
I don't know if I've gone that far.
It sucks to want to be, it sucks that you're on the market as it is because you want to be wanted and you want to stay where you're at and all that kind of stuff. But teams weren't lined up to trade for you.
No, one team wasn't lined up to trade for him. Let's be fair, Big O. The Portland Trail Blazers put out that entire narrative because they said they have Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson, and they didn't need him, and that's fine. The Wizards in a heartbeat would have taken him.
still could acquire him and move him to somewhere else. So
they didn't want to go through that exercise of doing someone else's work. Tyler Herro had interested teams. I know in the Celtics, I know in the Brooklyn Nets, there were teams that were interested in the skill set that he had. The Utah Jazz was another. In that trade, again, I think he's been besmirched too much. The Wizards, in a heartbeat, would have taken Tyler Herro in a Bradley Beal deal, like we discussed, for the age difference and that other stuff.
That's different there. That's desperation. They don't have much options in Washington. They're not gonna get free agents, so they would have to accept it. But the Heat has kind of made it known that they would move Tyler Herro, and the NBA isn't knocking down their door to go trade for him. So the only thing I'm saying is Tyler Herro for himself needs to kind of break through that threshold, because it's actually a good thing that everybody wants you. And I don't think that that's the case yet right now for Tyler Herro, because there's a lot of salary. There's a lot of injury history. There's some questions. We know there's talent, but it really hasn't been all put together from beginning to end. So nobody could feel great about Tyler Herro, because there's always that question mark that's looming behind him. Will he stay healthy? Can he get it done? All those kind of things. Is he going to be that star? Is he going to be an all-star? Is he going to be a franchise type player? There's still question marks with Tyler. It's still potential. So for himself, he really needs to break through so he can kind of control his own destiny in a way, because once you're good enough, you kind of have a say on where you're going to go, in the NBA. And if not, he's kind of that question mark.
Well, I'm going to put it down here in our Acura Pembroke Pines report. As the calendar turns to November, Tyler Herro this season will be a $30 million bargain player. That his value as a player in today's NBA economy, where we see guys like Bradley Beal are getting $50 million and Dame's getting that kind of money, Tyler Herro will be a value player, and you will turn to me at the end of the season and go, Ira, you know what? That was a pretty good contract they signed him to based on what he was able to offer. So end of the day, I think the Heat will get their value. I think the league will realize they missed out on a value those teams that could have made a trade. That's the way it's trending to me. But Big O, you're spot on. But not if he only plays 55, 60, or 65 games and not approaching 70 games. Because you know what? He's a young dude. He's not like us old guys with all our problems. He should be able to make it through an NBA season. He dove for a ball that maybe was a mistake. That was a freak injury. It's the soft tissue injury the year before against the Celtics in the NBA Finals when he was limited. That was the problem. So to me, that's the difference. Yes, his best ability besides scoring has to be availability. I agree with that.
Yeah, they need him. They need him. Without him,
agree.
They lose an element. They lose the ball handling. He can set people up too. He does have his vision is terrific when it comes to assisting. So he's got also that skill set. Now let's finish the question. So I'm looking here, 24-25, and then the player option for 25-26. Does Jimmy Butler play his last season with Miami in the 25-26 season, or does Miami extend it past 36 years old?
I think, Big O, as much as you hate the age factor, the risk factor with injuries, yes, I think Jimmy's the kind of guy, if he proves it to me, I'm not going to give up on a guy because of age. I'm not going to look at the calendar. If Jimmy Butler, who had a very good regular season when he showed up last season, has two very good seasons.
4 years from now, we're talking. We still have to go through this season, next season,
you have
after
2 seasons.
that, and then 4 seasons from now to extend it, Ira, on that body.
I'm waiting to see what he does for the next couple of years, because the guy works his ass off. He's constantly in the gym. And again, I'll put it this way. He has to get his amount of games up, because in a salary cap world, when you're paying guys $500,000 a game, you can't be on the bench in street clothes for $500,000. You have to be out on the court. Let's see what Jimmy does this year. If Jimmy Butler takes the Miami Heat to an NBA Finals for the 3rd time in his 5 years under contract to you, it might be pretty cold, Big O, not to do something.
I still have 2 more years.
Just saying.
I know, but God, I feel because his body is so
beat up. Let's wait to see what happens this year. Big O, When you're on that championship parade, they're telling you to duck because you're coming up to the bridge, then we'll see how you feel. Or if you hit your head, we'll see how you feel then. Let's wait. Again, the beauty of the extension for Bam and for Jimmy is you have another entire season to judge it on. Hey, if Jimmy plays 55 games this season, hell no. Let's see how this season plays out.
Detroit tomorrow night. Detroit's got a couple of young guys on that roster. What
Absolutely. I mean, with what Cade Cunningham has shown, he was injured last year, couldn't come out. Jaden Ivey, they have nice young players, but again, they're going to be missing Bogdanovich. He's out for the start of the season. Monty Morris is out for the start of the season. You know what, Big O? This sounds kind of silly, but it's kind of a must-win. Because your next game, you're going to Boston. Then you have the Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards on the second night of a back-to-back, and then you got Dame and Giannis on a 3-game trip to Boston, Minnesota, and Milwaukee. You sort of need to win that first game against Detroit, get at least one on the road, come back feeling good about yourself at 2-2. So I know it's hyperbole, but it's sort of a must-win season opener for the Heat. Really important. You lose that game, you go out on that 3-game trip. You don't want to start this season like last season when you started 7-11. All you were doing was chasing your tail the entire season from 10th place in the Eastern Conference early in the year, as late as December.
Ira, I would imagine that they've got a little bit of that attitude this year. Like, yo, guys, we're not doing this bullshit of 7 and 8 seed and playing crap and all. I would imagine that has to
I think Spo has that attitude. I think Bam has that attitude. I think Tyler has that attitude. I think Kyle Lowry's 37 might not have that attitude. And Jimmy Butler went from missing 20 games in the regular season to the NBA Finals. I need to get inside that guy's head. And I know what he's going to tell us at practice. I will play when I'm able. I will play when I'm needed. You know what, Big O? Those are both open to interpretation, aren't they?
No, they are. But why do you want to put... Dude, the season was on the brink against the Bulls. I mean,
So you could look at that day in the fourth quarter, trailing Chicago by 7, or you could look at the day that you had media day at the NBA Finals preparing to play the Denver Nuggets. Again, it's a double-edged sword when you bounce back from the dead, just like the Panthers. Were they as good as they were? Can they repeat that? Just like the Diamondbacks, 6 games over 500. They go to a Game 7 against the Phillies. That's the thing is, you can fool yourself into it. This has been the outlier of seasons in professional sports in the United States. But our team's going to look at those teams and go, you know what? We'll be like the Heat. We'll be like the Panthers. We'll be like the Diamondbacks. You're right. It's a slippery, dangerous slope. But it's one that's provided dividends also. So when you're older like Jimmy and older like Kyle, you do wonder what their approach will be. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying you do sort of wonder.
God, I would figure you want to avoid that, man, because
so would I, but I'm not them.
Happen on one stupid game, dude. Yeah. I mean, give me a break, man. I lived the expansion year when watching our Heat beat like Utah or Detroit or something like that, and it's like, anything can happen, bro. John Shasky might have a decent night on your ass. All right, what do you got going on in the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Did another follow-up in my Pat Riley interview. He basically said, look, the way this team is set up, it's simple. If Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Herro have career best years, we'll be fine. That's a hell of a lot to put on a player before the start of a season. He said he wants one guy to average 25, one guy to average at least 23, another guy in the 20s. Kind of interesting that the defensive-minded coach in Pat Riley all of a sudden is talking about offense. And how does Eric Spoelstra have those points be value points and not just guys going for theirs? So I wrote about that. I also wrote about the Heat in my Ask Ira about their upgraded power rotation. But is Thomas Bryant enough, or is he still not that big body that they try to play with Dedmon and with Zeller, and they're going to need against the likes of the Embiids and Jokic's? So I think we need to take a look at the power rotation also. That's Get Ask Ira. That's at sunsentinel.com right now.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Enjoy your week, Ira. We will catch up next week, my friend. Appreciate it.
Next week from Milwaukee when it's going down for real. Thanks, Big O.
Thank you, sir.
You've been listening to the Acura of Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA Report with Ira Winderman. When you're looking for award-winning service and great deals from the #1 volume Acura sales dealership in the Southeast United States, you go to Craig's Inn Acura of Pembroke Pines at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. Show.